Shotgun Copman is the newest entry to the I die again, please hurt me more genre, otherwise known as a precision platformer. And if you couldn't tell from the title, it doesn't exactly take itself anywhere close to the vicinity of serious. You play as Shotgun Copman, on a quest to arrest Satan by platforming your way through hell with only your trusty shotgun to launch yourself through the air, which is also the only way to jump in this game, because Shotgun Copman doesn't need bother with Light Day when he has his trusty shotgun. The game is simple, it's a 2D platformer, you use the right analog stick to aim, and if you use your shotgun it will launch you in the opposite direction. You get 3 shots of the shotgun and it reloads automatically when you touch the ground. You can also pick up a bunch of other weapons to use in tandem with your shotgun, that may not have the same oomph, but have just enough to let you hover in the air. It's okay, they're great for killing demons, but the shotgun is truly the star of the show. It allows for some very challenging and unique platforming. You don't just push the jump button and hold forward and time the jump correctly, you instead have to carefully angle your shot, often very quickly in mid-flight if you want to avoid all the hellish traps and enemies. You do have to rewire your brain though. Games have taught me to aim at the enemy, not away. Remember to point in the opposite direction you want to go before whipping your gun around to blast the unsuspecting demon in the face. It definitely takes a bit to get used to. Once you do figure it out, it all feels so smooth and natural, allowing you to focus on the precise platform that the game demands. There is this absolutely hectic sense of speed and adrenaline that comes from having to precisely angle your shots to weave through all the traps and bullets, to fly through the levels all while blasting demons with the same shotgun shots that you're using to move, to not only get through the level, but also ensure you kill all the demons along your way, and do it quickly to earn all the medals in each level. Now to be fair, I didn't technically die very much. The game is still challenging, don't get me wrong, but most of my quote-unquote deaths are actually me being more disappointed with myself than a parent stumbling onto their kid's hentai collection and restarting. This is because each level has 4 medals to earn, one for killing all the enemies in the level, one for beating the level under a certain time limit, another for taking no damage, and finally one for doing all 3 in one go. So any missed time jump, any damage suffered, any demon that escaped the glorious buckshot of justice meant I wanted to immediately restart. If it wasn't good enough for the shotgun man, it wasn't good enough for me. It also helps that levels load practically instantly and a successful run would take under a minute. And then even if you do actually die, it's not that big of a deal. If you get hit, you just have to grab your heart that spawns practically right next to you, and you're good to go. And when you do actually die, checkpoints are pretty frequent. The difficulty of the game comes more in wanting to perfect the levels, not simply wanting to beat them. This allows for less skilled players to get through the game, enjoy themselves, and gives them the chance to fail and learn, while players like me can strive for those medals and get that challenge. Win-win for everyone at all skill levels. And man, did some of those medals really push me to shoot for perfection. It got me to strive for the most efficient move I could make at any given time no matter what, because it was just so much fun when you do have that perfect run, where you launch yourself through the air, grabbing a helpless demon and tossing them into your enemies, turning them all into paste, before firing another shotgun blast to propel yourself over a saw blade, catching another demon or 2 with your buckshot. Like, early in the game, I mostly used the shotgun to launch myself into the air to get over gaps. But because I wanted those medals, I had to quickly learn that it's still a fucking shotgun, and well-placed shots can both launch you through the air and kill a few enemies while you're at it. And since you automatically reload when you're on the ground, you effectively have infinite bullets with little to no reload time. So when I was on the ground, I could just keep shooting to move myself left and right for a little bit of a speed boost, because why walk when you can travel by buckshot? The game encouraged me to aim for perfection without ever feeling too sweaty or demanding, even though it kind of is. The shorter levels and quick load times meant restarting never felt like a big deal as well, or the deal at all really. And it is just fun to fly by shotgun, to just move through the levels by using a shotgun. It is such a silly premise, it's hard not to love it. Even if I'd miss a jump or get hit, I'd immediately restart without a second thought. It never felt frustrating, but always so satisfying when I did finally perfect a level, or weave through those saw blades with a perfectly placed shotgun blast that had been giving me trouble for so long. It has that quick arcadey gameplay that just begs you for one more attempt. You got so close last time, why not take another shot at it? But I do wish that there was more environmental variety. Editing me is probably showing you footage from across most of the game's 9 worlds, and if you can't tell, that's because they all look the same. It's supposed to be hell, get creative, it's supposed to have 7 layers with convenient themes to draw inspiration, which, with the game's 9 worlds, leaves 2 they could have just gone hog wild with themselves. As is, all the levels are basically just these corridors of black walls, punctuated by red enemies or traps, but there is a benefit to this simpler style, admittedly. It's very readable. There was never a moment where I was like, what's that? It's always very clear at a glance what's an enemy, what will kill me if I touch it, and what will help me. which is good considering I'm often flying through the maps at the speed of shotgun on a never-ending quest to get that level's medal for beating it under a certain time. So being able to quickly understand what I'm looking at is a necessity. It also meant that when the game introduced a new mechanic, it immediately stands out, inviting you to experiment and learn what it is and what it does through gameplay without the need to stop you for a tutorial. The only time I really had trouble discerning something from one another was the weapons. Too many of them, especially later on after introducing some of the wacky weapons, look far too similar at a glance. This generally wasn't a problem because they all kill things good. I did have my favorites and not all of them are totally equal, not to mention weapons are also pretty disposable considering you lose them upon getting hit, defaulting to a pistol. But all the weapons felt so much fun to use, and I'm glad they gave us some weird ones in there too. Everything from shotguns and SMGs to lightning guns that arc to nearby enemies, making them great for dealing with groups, to guns that shoot 3 bullets at once. It was always exciting when a new weapon was introduced just to see what weird method of exercising demons would come next. Most enemies are pretty weak, which makes sense as the game wants you zipping through the maps as fast as possible, so this means you only really notice the difference in weapon damage during boss fights, where weapons like the minigun can absolutely melt bosses, while the shotgun or SMG feel anemic by comparison. Still, the fun mechanics of the wackier guns and the gory fun of melting dozens of enemies in your wake made the guns feel like a hell of a power fantasy, even when I was reaching for the restart button because I got hit once and lost that gun. Which actually wasn't a huge deal because weapons drop relatively frequently. I found they usually dropped after the 3rd or 4th enemy that I killed, but the weapon drops are random, and you get to keep whatever weapon you had at the end of the level and bring it into the next one. So long as you don't get hit, you can keep any weapon forever. That probably won't happen, but you can technically do it. Now, there was never a moment where I felt like I couldn't beat a level without a certain weapon, or that I absolutely had to have a specific weapon to earn all the medals, but there were definitely levels that were easier because I had a certain weapon going into them. So again, you can 100% beat every level in the game and get all the medals with whatever weapon, but I'd bet speedrunners are all going to start by getting one specific weapon and then just doing everything with that. Aside from all the weapons, there's a surprising amount of variety in the levels, not necessarily visually, but mechanically, with each world you go to introducing something new, like these pipes you go through like Mario, but you can also shoot through them to deal with any enemy before they even see you. Later on, it's used in some quick puzzles where you have to maneuver yourself around these movable blocks and shoot through the pipes to position it properly. It's really creative and switches things up from the constant shooting, without taking away from all of the shooting for too long. It's short and sweet and serves as a quick respite. My favorite gimmick were these bubbles that made you float and you could essentially fly by shooting and letting the bubble carry you, but you had to be careful not to float into any walls or spikes or enemies and pop the bubble. It created a new dynamic where instead of just zooming around with your shotgun, you now have to worry about your momentum, and maybe you shoot to launch yourself in one direction, then shoot in the opposite to slow yourself down before pancaking yourself against the wall. There were quite a few of these gimmicks and a lot of them were really fun. I actually wish we got to use them more. Normally I like it when a game leaves you wanting more. It shows restraint, and I'd rather leave wanting more than feel overstuffed and tired of something. But for some of these gimmicks, I wanted just a few more levels just to see them really shine. Still, they overall made the simple gameplay feel deep and kept me on my toes with fun surprises. Another way it varies things up are these occasional combat-centric rooms where the whole level is just them throwing waves of enemies at you. This is really the one other place that you feel the difference with weapon damage, because killing enemies even half a second faster can be the difference between winning and a screen full of trigger-happy demons. Still, they are fun though. They're almost like a bullet hell, where instead of the constant forward motion of the regular platforming levels, you have to often make some pretty tight moves to weave through bullets and are constantly looking to make sure you don't accidentally corner yourself, which I did frequently. Some of these levels even incorporate some of the world's gimmicks, like one where the whole thing is just a series of pipes you were constantly falling in and out of, and as you fall past enemies you can take pot shots at them. It's like they get clever with the level design on some of them. These are especially dumb fun parts of the game that are just a fun excuse to shoot a lot of things, and they're used sparingly enough that it almost felt like a treat when one did come up. And I felt similar with the boss fights in the game. There's some really fun, really creative bosses in this game that were just a joy to fight. So despite the game's simplicity, there's actually a lot of variety here. It takes its concepts and does everything it can with it and more, but also never wears out its welcome. If anything, I wish there was more. The game only took me about 6 hours to complete, and that's getting pretty much everything. This game doesn't even have leaderboards, which is a weird omission because the game clearly keeps track of your times, and this type of game is just perfect for that sort of thing. It could have been so much fun to just compete and just see how fast people could get through levels, spurring you on to replay again and again, adding that much more replay value. Because as is, once you earn all the medals, which I did, there's just not much reason to go back. Now, as for the game's story, it technically has one. All of the dialogue in the handful of cutscenes can be boiled down to Shotgun Cop, I will arrest you, Devil. You cannot run. Devil, fuck you, Shotgun Cop. And that's literally all of the dialogue. Spoilers, I guess, but you're playing a walking brick with a thumb for a head, and has clearly never even heard of Leg Day, let alone partaken in it, so what did you expect? It is funny that Satan literally only has 4 words that he says on repeat, but again, if you came to a game called Shotgun Cop Man for story, you must have very unique tastes. Shotgun Cop Man is a short but very enjoyable experience. It does a lot with its very simple premise, has a very unique take on platforming that has you zipping through cleverly designed levels. It is one hell of a good time.